So welcome everyone to the Matri Satsang of Anandamayi Ma. As usual, we are recording it. I have to give this disclaimer. So if you participate, you will be recorded, and we put it on our YouTube channel, Anandamayi Ma Satsang West. But please don't let that dampen your enthusiasm to participate. This week, our dear friend Pragya, who co-hosts with me usually, is in India. You know, she has opened the Anandamayi Ashram Temple and Ashram in Amherst, Massachusetts, and is running that very well and giving Ma Satsangs there. And we're all doing our best to do Ma's work. She is in India right now. She was invited to speak at a conference in Tiruvannamalai, where Raman Ashram is, about Anandamayi Ma, and so she's doing that. And then I think now she's at Ma Sharanam. She's at our ashram of Anandamayi Ma in central India, Ma Sharanam, spending time there. So we're happy for her, although we won't see her today. I've been busy also. We just came back from the Bahamas, where I was giving classes and kirtan on Anandamayi Ma in the Shivananda Bahamas, and also at Thanksgiving we were at Shivananda Grass Valley. So we're all doing our part to pass Ma's work on and share it with people. So for those who are here for the first time, we are here to invoke the presence of Anandamayi Ma, to feel her presence, to study her teachings and her life, and to just tune into her and to have community together doing this. And we're here in the presence of her paduka. There's the very shoes she wore on her feet at one point in her life. And to think about what we're doing. Ma was an historical personage. She did appear on earth from 1896 through 1982. And there's so many ways to relate to her, and there's infinite depth in relating to her. I'd never tire of reminding people every time that Ma said, "You cannot even think of me unless I first think of you." So the fact that we're all here, even if we have any kind of motivation ranging from this idle curiosity to intense longing, we're here because Ma has called us first. And when we concentrate on Ma and think of Ma, like I say, she was an historical person. She was a real person in this world. And there are different levels of relating to her. As we think of her, as we put our minds to her, she will and she does slowly reveal herself to us more and more. And I know most people, if not everyone here, has had this experience, that you begin to experience Ma on deeper and deeper levels. Because although she was temporarily contained in time, she is most wonderfully an eternal spiritual force, an eternal spiritual being. And the fact that she stepped into time temporarily and had a physical body that looked like a physical body, it could have been a mirage, and now she's withdrawn, that makes no difference. She's still very approachable. And the more we think of her, the more we let our minds merge into her, the deeper and deeper perceptions we'll have of her. And we'll experience her as this unending source of blessing, this ever-present being that can always be with us to help us, to inspire us, to guide us, to empower us. So that's one of our first sankalp, our first setting of our will in this satsang is we want to invoke Ma, to feel Ma's presence, and to let our minds go deeper into her and study her and try to understand her. And the limited mind can't really understand her, but we can experience her. So that's our first thing. And our second aim is to have community among each other. We have satsang. That means company with truth. So we are with like-minded people in this crazy world that we're living in to help each other and support each other and to love each other. So because of that, I always ask everyone's patience for this next thing, where we're going to have everyone be introduced. So first of all, if you're here for the first time, my name is Mangalananda, and I received Diksha initiation from Ma in 1973 and traveled with her in 73, 74, and I was living in her ashrams for over 40 years. And I am an appointed acharya, that means like a lineage teacher of our Ma Sharanam ashram in central India, in Madhya Pradesh, where Pragya is right now. And this is my wife, Gloria.
Jemba.
She'll be reading later in Pragya's place. So let's have our tech host for this, and Rainer's not with us this month either. So our tech host is our dear uh, Katia in Portugal. So Katia, why don't you introduce yourself, and then after that, Katia will call your name, and when you and just at the bottom left of your screen, just temporarily unmute yourself when she calls your name. And since there's a lot of people here, for now, just say your name and where you're from. And later on, we'll have an open session where we can share and talk together. But for now, we just want to see your face and hear your voice and check in with you, okay? So Katia, will you say hello and introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Jai Ma, this is Katia here from Portugal, Madeira Island, and very happy to be here with you. Very happy. So next we have Christopher Redfield.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome.
My name's Christopher. I'm from Humboldt, California, and I'm just thrilled to be with you guys.
Thank you, Christopher. Jai Ma, welcome.
Jai Ma. Next we have Bill Ryan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today. Emma.
Good to see you, Bill.
Jai
Always
Ma.
good to see you. And later, I would like people to be thinking, I love to hear just how people came to Ma, how Ma touched their hearts and called them, and we have our sharing time. Love to hear it. Yes, next, Katia.
Yes, Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris. I'm in Wisconsin.
Welcome, Chris. Good to see you.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma. Next we have Christopher Redfield. I think I already called you. David Herring.
David and Linda.
We are David and Linda. We're in Williamsburg, Virginia. We have been to Cancun already. Jai Ma.
We're glad to be here.
Jai Ma.
Baba.
We
Hi there.
met in Virginia when I was at Yogaville.
That's right.
I've met many people now in the Sangha. I'm really happy whenever I can meet you in person or talk to you in person. Good. Welcome, David and Linda. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Now we have David Robinson.
Jai Ma, David and Janet Rubinson, and we're in Florida.
And we're waiting for the pot talks. They're on their way.
Good. Excuse me. An FYI, I will be in Florida with David and Janet doing a Matri Satsang in person on February 14th, Valentine's Day. So if people would like to come to that, who are locally in Florida, please contact me and we'll talk about that. So we'll see you guys next month, about a month from now.
Wonderful. Next we have Gabriel.
Hello, Gabriel from Seattle. Jai Ma.
Good to see you, Gabriel.
Jai Ma.
Welcome. It's so good to see people's faces, even though it's so brief. We really kind of tune in with each other, and then we can talk more freely. It's really very good.
Now we have Greg.
Hi, I'm in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Jai Ma.
Very good. Good to see you, Greg. Nice, beautiful picture of Ma back there, too.
Jennifer.
Jai Ma, I am Jennifer. I'm in Seattle.
Hello, Jennifer. And we have been emailing, right? You're the person that's been.
Yes, we met in the Bahamas.
That's right. Good to see your face. Oh yes, I remember you so clearly now. I'm so glad you made it to Satsang. Excellent.
Oh my, thank you.
I love in my travels where I meet people who Ma has just reached out and grabbed their hearts, and it's so beautiful to see how and when. And Jennifer had all the checked boxes of a total a Ma grab, grab and run. So, I'm glad you're with us, Jennifer. Welcome.
Welcome. Now I have Kathleen.
Tonight I'm in Falmouth, Massachusetts, visiting my daughter.
Very
Happy
good.
to be here. Jai Ma.
Thank you, Kathleen. Good to see you. Jai Ma.
Jai Ma. We have now Molly.
Jai Ma. I'm in Long Island. Nice to be here. Oh.
I couldn't hear. Where are you from?
I'm in Long Island.
Very good. I'm New Yorker. Welcome Jai Ma.
Welcome. Next, we have a name that is not a name. We have an R and a series of numbers. I don't know who.
Ryan here from Ireland.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Good to be here.
Can you turn on your video? If you look on your upper right of your screen, you can put start video.
Oh no, I'm purposely concealing my identity for the moment.
Okay, sure you're in Ireland?
I am, yes.
Very nice. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Next, we have Sarah and Yana.
Jai Ma. We're in Hilo, Hawaii.
Oh, good to see you both, Yana and Sarah. Very good.
Now we have Will.
I'm calling from south of England, so having
Where?
Where is your Will? Where are you from?
a south of England, UK.
Very good.
Jai Ma.
Welcome. Very good.
Jai Ma. We have Julia.
Hello, Jai Ma. I'm in Northern Ontario in Canada. Very cold. Lots of snow.
Oh.
Welcome,
Jai Ma.
Shama. And Shama also received a diction directly from Ma's hands. An old friend. Welcome.
And we have Yatesh.
Oh.
Jai Ma, I'm driving. I'm on my way, so I will be there. Glad to be here. Thank you, Mangalamji and Gloria. Always nice to be with you.
Well, good to see you. Keep your eyes on the road.
Nice.
Thank you.
And we saw you just recently. Where were you? Where did we
We're
see
at
you?
IYIC.
Oh yeah, we were seeing Kirtan at Indigo Yoga Institute in San Francisco, and he was there. Yeah. Good, good.
And I think that's it. I don't
Very
think
good.
that anybody is missing, but
Okay, is anyone not get introduced who's here, hiding somewhere? Okay. Well, welcome all, and thank you for being here. And we're gonna think of Ma's together. Excuse me. As you know, we have kind of a liturgical way of doing this. I like to always start with reading Ma's words of assurance that she is totally with us, totally aware of us at every moment. So this is Ma's own words. She says, I am ever with each one of you, wherever you happen to be. But your vision is tied down to worldly matters, and you have little time to direct your eyes to this body and your thoughts and actions. What can I do? And see, this is one reason we're having Ma through Satsang, so we can take the time to think of Ma. She continues, but know it for certain that whatever you do in thought and deed, whether you are near or in distant lands, never escapes my loving attention. Just as at a flash of torchlight your faces gleam forth in their bold outlines, all your facial expressions appear in my mind when you meditate on me or talk about me or sit down to pray to me. So literally, when we're thinking of Ma, she is seeing our faces in her mind. See, this is infinite consciousness, and she can do that because she is the very embodiment, manifestation of the self within us. She's the self of the self. She's always right here behind our consciousness. She continues, for this body, you know, Ma rarely used the pronoun I. She would say this body, ye sharir, because she could speak through any body, but she would seem saying this body says. So she says, for this body, the question of accepting or declining anyone does not arise. At all times and under all circumstances, in inspiration and in dryness, this body remains and ever will remain with everyone. So important to remember. She says, and this is her speaking, but speaking of herself, third person. In all your activities, in your sadhana, your spiritual practice, Ma is with you. With perfect repose, sit still thinking. In the midst of emptiness, Ma is with me. This will give you ananda, bliss. Whether you meditate quietly or laying down, feel Ma is with me at every single moment. This is Ma saying this. And she explains it how it can be. She says, the Atma, the true self, the Atma of this body is the Atma of all. It cannot be that anyone anywhere is not Ma's very own. And it was seen so often in Ma's life. People would come to her and they would say, oh, Ma, a new person has come. And she would just smile and say, no one is new. Everyone is familiar. She knew everyone. And that was one mark of being with Ma. It happened in my first darshan of Ma. And I've asked so many devotees over the years, tell me about your first darshan. And one thing that is just always there is seeing Ma, there's this incredible feeling of familiarity. It's a soul familiarity. I've always known Ma. I will never not know Ma. So she's eternally ours, eternally our mother. Excuse me. So she continues, for one who knows me, I am one with him. For one who wants to know me, I am very near to him. And for one who does not know me, I am a beggar before him. So Ma wants us to know her. Here's nice. She says, Katya, be sure and let these people in. She says, you ask me if I love you. You may or may not be able to be without me, but I simply cannot do without any of you. Isn't that beautiful? So she's constantly living with us at all times. And the last one, let's look at this. She says, anyone calling out for God from any land, in any language, and in any age, remember their cries reach this heart like waves crashing onto the shore. So Ma, we see by her own words, she's totally with us. She's totally aware of us. So we're going to try to slowly make ourselves aware of her and try to understand her more and more deeply. So we'll be thinking of her life, her words intellectually, but let's start with the heart and start invoking with our heart. And the best way to do that is through music, through calling her name. So Katya, will you do the first kirtan and explain what it means also, okay?
So the first kirtan is Om Ma Sharanam. I take refuge in Ma, in her love, her grace, her presence, her ever-loving presence. Om Ma Sharanam.
It's weird. And then I have to get off and then get back on.
Om Ma Sharanam.
No. I don't know what's wrong.
Om Ma Sharanam.
I'm going to get off.
Om Ma Sharanam. 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 Anandamayi Ma, 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 Anandamayi. Sharanam, Om Sharanam, Om
So
Sharanam,
strange.
Om Sharanam, Om
We'll go in the other
Sharanam,
room.
Om Sharanam, Om Sharanam, Om Sharanam, Om Sharanam, Om Sharanam, Om
We'll have to
Sharanam,
go in the other
Om
room. I
Sharanam,
don't know if
Om
it's audio.
Sharanam, Om Sharanam, Om Sharanam,
Says speaker in my
Om
phone.
Sharanam, Om Sharanam,
You hear a
Om
ringtone?
Sharanam,
No. Try the middle.
Om Sharanam, Om Sharanam, Om
That's it.
Sharanam, Om 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 Sharanam. One last time, all together. Om Sharanam. Om Sharanam. Om Sharanam. Om Sharanam. Om Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata Ki Jai.
Thank you, Katya. It's absolutely beautiful. Perfect invocation.
Thank you.
And Arpita and Robert, welcome, but you're unmuted. So be sure and mute on the bottom left-hand side.
Oh,
That little thing.
sorry.
No
I was
problem.
having trouble with my microphone.
Yeah. Now you missed it, but I'm sure Janet and David told you I'll be in Florida on Valentine's Day, February 14th. We'll
Yes.
Good. We hope to see
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Great. That's great. Yeah, we canceled our fancy schmancy dinner.
Good. I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Fancy schmancy satsang.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, well, thank you, Katya. It's wonderful. So I like to always start with reading something from Ma's life, because Ma was a totally free being. She said many times, this body, meaning her body, was brought down by your prayers, and it is not brought down by karma as our bodies are. Our body is a result of our karma, of our destiny, of our desires, which brought us back into this earth. So in one sense, we're kind of puppets of our karma. But Ma had none of that. Ma was totally free. So everything she did in this life was just a response to the needs of the people around her. And everything has a message. When I was living in India, I lived in one of Ma's ashrams in India for 12 years. And I taught a class on Ma's life in the school. And we would go through every small detail of Ma's life. We would just take one event that she did. And I would ask the kids, now what does this mean? Why did Ma do this? And we try to just analyze everything about it, because there's lifetimes. They say the life of an avatar is a scripture in itself. So let's think of I've got a couple of things I want to read. This is from a devotee's diary. It's from the book My Anandamayi Ma by Vishuddha Chakraborty. Now Vishuddha is very interesting. She, those of you who have been to Ma's Samadhi Peeth in Kankal, where her body is interred, Vishuddha is now one of the people who are taking care of it. She's quite old now, but we were there, 2 years ago? Or was it last year? Well, you were there last year or 2 years ago.
2 years.
And she was still there. She literally grew up in Ma. Before she was born, her mother and her grandmother were devotees of Ma. Ma came to her house while she was still in the womb. Ma and Bholenath and Bayaji, can you imagine? Came to her house when she was still in the womb and blessed her before she was born. So talk about someone who's connected with Ma. And then she grew up in the Varanasi Kanya Peeth, which is the girls' school, which Didi, Guru Priya Didi, started for girls, which is also still running very well. She grew up in that. And in that school, even though Ma traveled incessantly for 50 years, Ma would spend a lot of time in the Kanya Peeth. So she grew up with Ma, literally, and she's just like Ma's very own. Now, her grandmother was a great devotee of Ma called Viraj Mohini Devi. And there's one point in Ma's life where Ma was constantly surrounded by people and devotees, and she had her schedule. Ma, at one point, I think it was in the 1940s or 50s sometime, Ma just took one lady, and it was this Viraj Mohini Devi, and just went off by herself. Didn't tell anybody where she went. And they tried to avoid people, and she spent several months traveling with this lady, just walking as a pilgrim. They had one set of clothes, exchange of clothes between them, and they just wandered through India for a long time. So Vishuddha Didi's grandmother is this devotee, Viraj Mohini. So here's some stories that were told by her grandmother to Vishuddha, and Vishuddha wrote this book. Okay, so if I got it clear now, is it clear? Okay, so here's the author, Vishuddha Chakraborty, about her experiences. When she says grandmother, it means Viraj Mohini Devi. Grandmother lost her husband in her early days, having 2 daughters. After arranging their marriages, she spent her days in sadhana and pilgrimage. She walked on foot all over India to visit the holy shrines. She went to Dhaka, that's where Ma was born, in the early 30s and met Ma in Shahbag Gardens. That was the first place Ma manifested as began to attract the devotees naturally. This in the 1920s, so you imagine how old this, talk about a lineage of Ma devotees. Grandmother was so captivated by Ma that she stayed close to her for the rest of her life. Granny had lost her son, her only son Granny had lost her son after only 22 days, and her husband died when she was in her 20s. Although she never expressed it, the loss weighed on her mind. Shortly after meeting Ma, Ma looked at her with great compassion and, motioning to herself, said, "This body is both your husband and your son." Beautiful. She would do this all the time. She would console people in the way they needed. Granny's sorrow was relieved never to return. And Granny told me that in the days when she was roaming alone with Ma, she found that Ma always preferred to pass through fields rather than following a road. With her thick, long black hair waving in the wind, her eyes upward, her feet barely touched the ground, as if she flew in the void. What a beauty it was! Seeing the 2 of them thus walking, once a village lady thought that the young lady, Ma, had gone mad and that her mother, Viraj Mohini Devi, was following her for protection. The lady asked, "Who is she?" And Granny answered, "She is Goddess Bhagavati herself, the Divine Mother." On the 8th of February 1970, Granny passed away suddenly with no sign of ailment or pain. My brother wrote to me that she had gone to the doctor for a routine checkup. While waiting for the doctor, Granny talked to everyone present about Ma, as she always did. While talking, she suddenly fainted. They took her home, where in full consciousness she left her body. Ma was in Varanasi at the time, so I read my brother's letter to her. Ma replied, "This is called true determination." This is Ma speaking. "Once when this body was in Calcutta, Viraj Mohini said to me, 'By your grace, I have no problems. But you once told me that you are both my husband and my son. As the husband and the son owe some responsibility towards their wife and mother, you should do for me the one favor, that I depart to the other world walking.'" Usually in such cases, this body responds, "As God wishes," but this time this body nodded her head in affirmation to Viraj Mohini. And now just look, as she said, so she did. She went walking. Later I heard that when Granny's body was cremated, a fragrant smell spread over the entire cremation ground. People said she must be a holy soul for such a fragrance to emerge. Isn't that wonderful? And in my life, I've been so fortunate not to just meet Ma, but to live in her lineage. I've lived with her, some of her great disciples, and in my travels, and when I was with Ma traveling, I met many of her devotees. And Ma just has wonderful, wonderful devotees. I've met so many beautiful people, both monastics and lay people, householders with families who were so devoted to Ma, who had a strong, strong spiritual life. It's really wonderful to see. I want to read one more thing. This is from the book Matri Darshan, or Mother Was Revealed to Me, by Bhayaji. Bhayaji was Jyotish Chandra Roy. Those who are familiar with Ma's life know his name well. Bhaiji just means respected elder brother. And in our lineage of Ma's devotees, Bhaiji is considered kind of the primal devotee. He was one of the very first devotees, and we look to him for our example. He knew how to love Ma, to serve Ma, to see who Ma was. And he, when Ma left Bengal, the first ashram was established in 1932 in Bengal, in Ramna grounds. And after it was all, just after a short time after the opening, Ma just suddenly one night, in the middle of the night, she did this. She was totally spontaneous. She took Bholenath and said, just buy a ticket to the end of the line, wherever it is. And she called Bhaiji from home. Bhaiji had a wife and children and a job. He worked for the agricultural minister in Bengal. And she said, come with me. And he didn't even get a change of clothes. She said, can I go home and get some clothes and tell my wife? And she said, no, collect money from whatever devotees are here and buy a ticket to the end of the line. And they left in 1932. And for the next 50 years, till 1982, Ma traveled incessantly. And Bhaiji stayed with her for a long time, her and Bholenath, and then later returned back to his job and finished things up and everything, and then traveled with her again. And he went to Kailash with her in 1936 and left his body in Almora, where we now have an ashram. But anyway, we looked to Bhaiji. He was her first biographer, and he was just a perfect disciple. He had doubts, he had problems, he had all these things, but he was a perfect example of how to be a real devotee. So this is from his book, which is a beautiful biography. So this is words of Bhaiji. Man's natural impulse to see some material embodiment of divine powers in human life prompted me one day when I found Ma alone to inquire, Ma, pray tell me, who are you in reality? She laughed loudly and said with affection, how can such childish queries arise in your heart? Because see, people throughout, especially these early days, people kept seeing Ma as her own Ishtar. They would see Ma suddenly, Ma would be sitting there, suddenly they'd see her as Krishna. They would see her as Kali. She would turn dark before their eyes. I mean, it happened time and time again. People saw different manifestations of divinity within Ma's own body. So she's talking about this. She says, let's go back. She laughed loudly and said with affection, how could such childish inquiries arise in your heart? Visions of gods and goddesses appear in accordance with one's inherited dispositions, samskaras. I am what I was and what I shall be. I am whatever you conceive, think, or say. But it is a supreme fact that this body has not come into being to reap the fruits of past karma. Why don't you take it that this body is the material embodiment of all your aspirations and ideas? You all have wanted it, and you have it now. So play with this doll for some time. Further questions will be fruitless. See, Ma can be very obscure sometimes. Now Bhaiji says, I said, Ma, these words of yours do not satisfy my yearning. Hearing this, she spoke with slight vehemence. Say, what more do you desire? And immediately a dazzling flood of heavenly light shone forth from her face. I was struck dumb with awe and wonder. All my doubts were laid to rest. About 15 days later, I went to Shahbag one morning and found that the door of Ma's room was closed. I sat down in front of it some 25 to 30 cubits away. The door opened all at once. I found to my bewilderment the figure of a divinely beautiful goddess, as genially bright as the sun at dawn, illuminating the entire interior of the room. In the twinkling of an eye, she withdrew all the radiance within her body, and Mataji was there, standing and smiling in her usual manner. In a second, the whole vision had passed off, like the play of some supernal magic. I remembered at once that Sri Ma had revealed herself in response to what I had said a few days ago. I began to recite a hymn and pray to her, may I be a worthy son of yours, worthy to be blessed with all your motherly bounty and grace. After a little while, Mataji advanced towards me. She picked a flower and a few blades of durbagas and placed them on my head as I fell at her feet. From that time, a deep conviction began to take root in my mind that she was not only my mother, but the mother of the universe. From that very day onwards, her grace worked such a change in me, and in so natural a manner, that her figure occupied the place of the goddess whom I had worshipped all these 18 years, since my initiation in early youth. Isn't that wonderful? It's so good to see different manifestations when Ma reveals herself, because she will. If we have an earnest, sincere longing to see her, to know her more, she will reveal herself more and more. Usually it's a very slow thing. It's a slow thing, like the dawning of the sun slowly brings the light along. So let's look at a quick excerpt from Ma. The devotee asked Ma, "Ma, my people find fault with me. They say that I neglect my duties. I am half here and half there, so neither goes well." In other words, she's half spiritual, half worldly. "I'm half here and half there, so neither gets done well." It's a common excuse among spiritual people, right? "Oh, I'm so spiritual, I don't do anything right." Ma says, "No." Ma was very honest. He says, "No, you are not half there. Very much less than half." But see, even when Ma rebuked us, he did it with such loving joy. So she says, "No, you are not half there, very much less than half. But with that little bit of otherworldliness, you can do your work very well, even better than you could do without it. Keep some hours reserved for your meditation, and for the rest, do your work as a service to God. By thinking of God all the time and regarding everyone as one of God's forms, your work will be done very well and everyone will be satisfied." When a person is out to accumulate wealth, they hide the little they have, and even when they have accumulated something, they keep it concealed. Keep your spiritual wealth in your heart and do the service of your family. There is no need to exhibit the little you have gained. But when you become really fully immersed in Him, so that it is impossible to attend to your work, then nobody will blame you. People will feel the influence of the divine in you, and on the contrary, be eager to serve you. If guests remain unattended, they will not mind it. They will be satisfied to have your company. But that is quite a different thing. Then in that state, the world will not exist for you. So, she says, she kind of puts to rest this spiritual thing about, "Oh, I'm so spiritual, I just wander around, don't do anything." She says, do your work well and be immersed in God. And she showed that perfectly. She, was, when she was first married to Bholenath, she went and lived in his household and served everyone. She was literally going into samadhi sometimes, and she was sometimes going to samadhi and burn the food and come out. But she served, she worked, slaved. I mean, her hands had sores on them. And then when they moved to Shaba, where she first manifested, she also did her work, but then at one point she was just so inwardly immersed she couldn't do anymore. And so Bholenath brought some of his family members to help do the practical cooking and cleaning and things. So his Ma was immersed in that. So she's saying, when you reach a state where you are really immersed in God, don't worry, you'll be taken care of. God will take care of you. Yeah. So we want to read some from Pragya's book, but let's so we don't have just talking. Let's do another kirtan. And if you're usually here, usually I like to have show a slideshow of pictures of Ma while we sing, but I couldn't get my app to work right, so we're not going to have a slideshow this month. So let's do a quick kirtan. In this kirtan we think of Ma's qualities. We say Anandamayi, overflowing with bliss; Chaitanyamayi, overflowing with divine consciousness; Karunamayi, overflowing with compassion; Parameshwari, the supreme being, feminine, Parameshwari. Okay? Katya, is the harmonium coming through? Okay. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Shri Ma Jaya Jaya Ma. Om Ma 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 Shri Ma Jaya Jaya Ma. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Hey Ma, 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 hey So those of you who are here regularly know our dear Pragya Hallstrom, who is a founder and at the moment staffing our ashram in Massachusetts. And she's the author of that beautiful book has become a classic, Mother of Bliss, which is a very well-researched book she wrote back in the 90s after spending a year with her family in India interviewing all these devotees of Ma. And then now she's come up recently with this 2-volume book called The Gospel of Anandamayi Ma, which came from tapes that were found in the Harvard Library of recordings of satsangs of Ma spanning like 25, 30 years. And Pragya spent 7 years reworking the translation into English and getting us already listening to Ma's voice, on recordings and getting the translation right. And so this is just informal satsang of Ma just speaking freely, answering people's questions. So it's very beautiful words of Ma we have. So we're going to have a reading, which Gloria will read now from that.
Okay. In the year 1960, after Ma's birthday, she went to Pune after Bombay. She spoke in Bengali at a satsang held at the house of Nandaji. Some section of that talk are below. Shri Ma, yesterday we were talking about karma, bhakti, and jnana, action, devotion, and knowledge. Someone said that he was following Kriya Yoga, the yoga of combining one's action with God. When it comes to bhakti, jnana, and karma and yoga, devotion, knowledge, action, and yoga, all four are in the four. When one desires to do karma yoga, the yoga of action, and does it with jnana, knowledge, and without any attachment, that karma is nothing but bhakti, devotion. He feels good doing such karma. It is said that the Lord lives in karma, action. Some say that the work is God for them. All these things prove that for them the karma itself is bhakti. So, karma is mixed with bhakti. Now, whatever karma one does, he must have full knowledge of it. The karma done without any desire for fruit is called Bhagavad karma, actions dedicated to God. It means that the person who does nishkama karma, a selfless deed, is united with that karma as well as God, and that is yoga. In this way, karma involves four things: kriya, bhakti, jnana, and yoga. Until one does nishkama karma, he does not succeed. By doing nishkama karma, one is expected to purify his mind and develop bhakti. Also, all four things are there in bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. One should have knowledge of him to whom he is devoted. Bhakti requires seva, selfless service, and that is a form of kriya, action. Bhakti is not complete without union, so yoga is also there. That is why a person is called a bhakti yogi or a karma yogi, because both bhakti and karma need yoga. Bhakti yoga also involves japa yoga, the yoga of mantra repetition. One will not try to know a thing for which he has no bhakti, devotion. When he goes toward jnana, it involves kriya. Every upasana, spiritual discipline, must have kriya, or action. When he knows that nitya yukta, that is Brahman, one with the self eternally, and does this upasana yoga is involved because upasana is necessary for union with nitya yuka and atma. Some people were saying we are not Advaitins, Nandulas, or Vedantins, followers of the way of Vedas. We are yogis. We are Kriya yogis. Kriya, that is action or practice, is important for us. So, for them who take Kriya yoga, that is the yoga of combining one's action with God, as prominent, there is jnana as well as bhakti in it. Kriya must be there as it is called Kriya yoga. A Kriya yogi is united with that nitya yukta, that is Brahman, one with the self eternally. So, yoga is also there. So, you see that all four are in all four. One thing more, if any path does not involve all four, it will not be efficient and will not be able to manifest that Mahayogi, to bring the eternal light into its wholeness. Therefore, if someone says, "This is not my path," this body replies, "Maybe that is not the path that you prefer, but your object should be he only." And when you have the same object as the other person, the question of criticizing him does not arise. Therefore, no one should have any grudge toward those who follow a different path. Do not raise a wall between yourself and that person. Do not hate him just because he is not a follower of your path. All paths belong to you, and everybody is in everyone because the self does not differentiate one from another. It is one and the same in everyone. You will not see that Purna Prakasha, that is the full light, until you are endowed with Akhanda Prakash, unbroken light. It is true that one should follow the path that his Guru shows him. There is no objection to that. People may adopt different paths, but you should also remember that the path you adopt will take you to God only when all four things are involved in it. For example, jnana alone will not take you to him. If you want to achieve the Lord through jnana, you should add bhakti, karma, and yoga to it. In other words, you should adopt jnana marga. That involves all the other three yogas. Only then will that jnana be purna, or full. Once you say, "Such and such a fellow does not belong to us because he follows a different path," you raise a wall of hatred, and that is wrong. But human nature is like that, and this is not a thing to be explained. You yourself should feel it. About the program, whatever you say is right. It is not a thing to be explained. God is self-effulgent. God is in everyone. Therefore, whatever a person does in that light is right for him. Let everyone have his own light. But again, do not hate each other. The curtain is within you, and you yourself draw it to create a difference. You should see the true light that makes you realize oneness. This is what this body said to the brahmachari yesterday. Whatever one says is right, this knowing or not knowing is not a thing to be discussed. It is a thing to see the light that is in everyone. It is a thing to be experienced, not a thing to be convinced of. Follow the way you are giving and feel him in that way. Jema.
Beautiful. Jema. So what are your thoughts about that? I thought it was very relevant to your case. Jnana alone will not.
My case?
Yeah, jnana alone will not take you there. You have to have bhakti also.
Oh, I always say that. The two wings of the bird. But it reminds me of something. I have some Indian girlfriends, and they're so lovely. You know, when you go to India, the women are so lovely. They really are. And they have a very close-knit family situation where the mother and father have the children, and the boy marries a girl, and they move in with a family. And then they have children, and the boy marries a girl, and they all move in with a family. So it's all this big family. And when a girl moves into that family, she's either doing one of two things. She brings scissors or she brings sewing needles. The scissors divides the family, and the sewing needles unites everyone. And you always want a girl who unites everyone. And so that's what a good woman in India strives to be, one who unites.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Yeah, but see, this reading shows a lot of things. First of all, the universality of Ma, which is so important. Because nowadays things are more open, but just recently that's become that way. Think of religion has divided people from the beginning of time. You know, I'm this religion, you're that religion. I'm either going to convert you or kill you or hate you. Yeah. So Ma just would not tolerate that at all. So the universality. But it's so important that all four of these yogas, the yoga of devotion, the yoga of knowledge, the yoga of action, the yoga of, what was the Kriya Yoga? She said, devoting your actions to God. And they all have to be together. When we were at our in-person Matri Satsang in New York in September, I gave a class on Bhakti Yoga, but remember I said how Bhakti Yoga can't be just singing and dancing. We know a Krishna devotee in India, we were there with them, and they were going from festival to festival, and he was dancing, he came by and he said, that's all we do, we sing and dance and eat. Hare Krishna, But to really have real bhakti, singing and dancing and eating is a part of it actually. But you have to go deeper, so you have to go into what can be separated as Raja Yoga, the deep meditation, taking the name of God into your deepest psyche with the breath and with deep concentration, to have that real direct contact with God. because yoga has to be experiential. So Ma makes a very important point here that if whatever path is your emphasis, like some people will emphasize Bhakti Yoga more. My path is just by my nature devotional, Bhakti Yoga. Some people are very intellectually, they have Jnana Yoga, they just have study and finding the self within. But they all have to be integrated. Both Swami Shivananda and his disciples and Sri Aurobindo talked about the term integral yoga. And they have to be integrated. There have to be parts of it in all, because they're not separate in one sense. Our emphasis can be one line, but you have to take in elements of the other. So Ma is saying this, if not all four yogas are not involved, it won't come to perfect fruition that it has to come to. So we should remember that we, first of all, that we are open-minded to people and their other paths. We should never say, my path is the only way. That's it's a curse of religions through the ages. And secondly, to make sure we have all paths, that if we're having devotion, we also have to have inner Raja Yoga, inner meditation. We have to have knowledge of what we're doing, not just doing things blindly, but we have to have knowledge of jnana. We have to have service from karma. Any path has to have service. Even the jnana yogis have to do some kind of service, because we live together. As part of our path has to be helping and serving each other, to see the unity. And it's been said that the movement of Bhakti Yoga is service, because love manifests as service. And if you're a jnani and you're trying to see the oneself in everything, if you're seeing the oneself in everything, you're obviously going to serve everyone as part of yourself. So in all these paths, they have to be a blend. We'll have an emphasis on one according to our nature, but we have to make sure we blend all of them in. I think Ma is stressing that. It's important. Good.
I just want to say, I'm taking the view out again, and I can't emphasize enough, there is one God. Whether you call him Krishna or Rama or Jesus, that's fundamental. Whether you're a Hindu. And so when people say, oh, they don't follow the right God, it's just preposterous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ma was seeing, some people who were Christians came to Ma, and she said, I'm also a Christian. She said, I believe in Christ. But she said, but if you start saying that your way is the only way, it disrupts the unity of religions, and this is not dharmic. This is not appropriate. You have to see the unity, as you say, of the one God. Yeah. Which I think it is coming across more these days. I mean, there still are a lot of sects within sects, S-E-C-T-S, sects that say this, not so, but it's coming along. I'd like to open the floor now. Just first of all, let's just talk about this reading. Then I want to ask more questions. But anyone else have any ideas from this, any interpretation from this reading? Anything come to mind about what we just read, Ma sang? Katya, you have any thoughts?
Yes, I was thinking about this, that these many paths are just like rivers that go to the same ocean, the infinite ocean of love and compassion. It's only one in the many shapes and many forms, all religions, spiritual traditions, even cultural traditions. They all have something in common. They are very different in shapes and forms and names, but their essence has something that Ma was speaking, very unique, and that interconnects us all as humans as human beings.
That's beautiful.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, and if you look at Dharma, Dharma is the path of righteousness, which is the blueprint of the universe, which is, we have our Swadharma, our own personal Dharma, and this Dharma itself is just the unfolding of the way to God, which every religion has its own Dharma. But it's adharmic, against Dharma, to do anything that divides. We saw a beautiful thing by a Sufi master, and he was very calm. But if someone did something where he said, "You've broken the unity," he was harsh. He said, "No, you cannot break the unity." And so Dharma is based on this concept that all is one, that we are all, not just on the external thing, we're all one human family. But if you look from the Vedas and the Vedantic approach, there is the one self, the one perfect consciousness of God, the spark of God within us. And its consciousness cannot be divided. It's indivisible. So that one spark is within every single person. So we are all totally one in that way. And Dharma is based on that concept that everything is one. Anything that divides that is adharmic, is out of Dharma. So Ma was such a wonderful manifestation. She was, from the time she opened her eyes at birth, she was in perfect unity of consciousness, which is unusual for a master. A lot of times they have a time of sadhana and discipline, and then it happens. But Ma just literally opened her eyes and she was there. So in this perfect unity of consciousness, everything around her just fell into place. So everywhere she went, she just brought this unity. She brought disputing different view paths. She brought reconciliation to them. She brought love where there was disunity. So her very presence brought unity. So you see how she emphasizes in her teachings too. So we should remember that Dharma is based on the unity of life. And we should always try to, respect everyone, love each path according like that too. Anybody else have any thoughts about this? Shama, you have any thoughts about it? You have to unmute. Bottom left, unmute.
I feel these teachings are imbibed in all the teachings of Ma and in the wisdom teachers. They interweave the textile is the same in truth when there is truth. So it's very familiar.
Yeah, it's true. It's often said there's no new truths. If you find a teacher who has a totally new truth, it's very suspicious. Like we were exposed to a man who used to be a boat captain, but suddenly he decided to be a Vedantic teacher. He was telling everybody all this weird stuff, And we asked this lady who was following him. I said, "Does it occur to you that what he's saying is not the same as what Jesus, the Buddha, Adi Shankaracharya, the Sufi masters, they all have different ways of studying the same thing. They have their own way of studying, their own way. Doesn't it seem strange to you? This man is saying something that no one's ever said before. I wouldn't trust that." So it's true, Ma never said anything new in that sense, but she had her own way of presenting it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
her own power in revealing it. That's what's
Yes.
wonderful. She revealed things. Yeah, good. Well, anybody else have any kind? First of all, just comment on this particular reading and how Ma talked about the four yogas and the unity and respecting paths. Any comments from anybody? Just unmute and if you want to speak up. Okay, now I'd like to ask you a question. I would love to hear. Some people are new for the first time. Some people I haven't spoken with before. I've just seen them, their face. I would love to know how people heard of Ma, how Ma touched their lives, how they first came upon Ma, and how she's grown in their lives. If anybody would like to share that, I would love to hear that. Anyone? Surely you're here because Ma called you, so it must be a...
Yeah, I'll be happy to share.
Please, please.
Like many people that I've heard from, my introduction to Ma was from Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi. I read toward the end of the book, there's a very short chapter about his meeting Ma, and there's a photograph of the two of them. And through that photograph, she kind of reached out and grabbed me. And so after that, I made an effort to get everything I could get my hands on to read about her and her life and her teachings. I've been blessed to be at her Samadhi Mandir in Kankal twice over the past few years, in my trips to India. And my current teacher at the Himalayan Institute has met Ma twice when he was younger man and living in India. So there's this interconnectedness. And many people at the Himalayan Institute, where I lived for 7 years, were devotees of Ma as well. And so that was kind of a nice thing to have.
Wonderful. Is that Swami Rama of the Himalayas?
Swami Rama was the founder of the Institute. Pandit Rajmani Tiganayak is the current spiritual head now. Yeah.
It's so funny. Ma was so universally respected. At first, very few people knew of her, and just like the common masses were just drawn to her. When she started traveling, people would just be attracted to her. But then slowly, people of higher spiritual prowess, I guess you could say, became drawn to her. First, it was Gopinath Kaviraj, who was one of the greatest, who was considered the greatest pundit of the Vedas in India, and a saint in his own right. He met Ma and just said, everything I've studied my whole life, I see manifested in front of me now. So he became, so from him, many people came. And then there was a time when there was a wonderful saint called Prabhupada Brahmachari, who Ma visited his ashram, and he had eyes to see. He had spiritual knowledge. He saw who Ma was and was just blown away. And so he wanted to introduce her to kind of the sadhu community, because in the monastic communities of India, it's all based on your lineage and your guru. And they always say, okay, who is their guru? And by the lineage, that makes their authenticity. So someone like Ma, who literally had no guru, we talked about how she went through the unfolding of spiritual life happened spontaneously in her. And at one point, the Guru Tattva, the principal Guru, came out as a person and initiated her and was drawn back into her. But as far as the external world, she had no Guru. So the sadhus at first just, they saw this phenomenon of this Bengali lady who was attracting people. They just thought, she's just some Bengali lady. So Prabhupada Brahmachari called a big meeting of all the heads of the ashrams, the heads of all the Shankaracharya Swami orders at his big ashram. And they all respected him. So this place was full of all these sadhus. This was like in the 30s, 1930s. And he brought Ma secretly as like the main guest. So they were there. And it was funny how how this happened. Ma didn't convince them with words or anything. She sat there just immersing herself. They were looking at her, just thinking, oh, okay. And at one point, I think Brahmacharya asked Ma, please say something to this gathering. And there was a long silence, and then it says she just started laughing. And she laughed, this amazing laugh for a long time. And the sadhus later compared, their hair stood on end. They said, they recognized it. They said, this is the laugh of the Divine Mother. Because it says in the Chandi, in the scripture of the Divine Mother, the mother let out a laugh before she killed the demons, of darkness. So it was that laugh they kind of realized, she was. And then they spent a week with her, talking to her, asking questions. And they were all just became lifelong devotees. So I know by the time I was in India in the early 70s, Ma was universally loved and accepted by the whole sadhu community. In fact, at the Kumbh Mela, which is going on now in Prayag, in Allahabad, they always invited Ma and her devotees to the Kumbh Mela, and they always invited Ma's troop to lead in the parade of the sadhus at the beginning of the Kumbh Mela. I've walked in that procession before with the sadhus. So Ma is so respected. Why I'm saying this is, so you find many teachers now, the older teachers who met Ma, and she brought everyone together. She brought the saints together. She in her travels, she kind of called everybody. So Swami Shivananda met her and loved her. Swami Ramdas met her. All the different saints met her. Yeah, Eknatheshwaran met her. Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me that one of your teachers met Ma, because she was so universally loved. And of course, Yogananda loved her.
Yeah, well, in fact, Swami Rama, in his book, Living with the Himalayan Masters, it's kind of his autobiography. He writes about he and another student met Ma when she was on her way up to Mount Kailash, and then on her way back. He was a Jnana Yoga at the time, following that path, and was impressed with the Bhakti Yoga that was her devotees were doing at that time.
Beautiful, yeah. I was recently reading the book by Sri M, who's just very interesting, and his guru was a disciple of Mahavtar Babaji, the great Himalayan master. And this was like 1981. Ma passed away in 82, and his guru kept telling him, "Go have darshan of Anandamayi Ma." Finally, he said, "She's going to leave her body. Are you going to go or not?" So finally, he went, and he was very impressed with her. And for people speak of her, I was at my years living in India, the Ashram sends Swami Guru Sharan me every year to tour, to teach classes in Europe and raise money for our school, do kirtan concerts and things. And we met a lot of different saints. At the Berlin Yoga Festival one year we met, I can't remember his name. He's the one, he has a white beard and curly hair. Satguru, not Sat, we met Satguru also, the one with the turban. But we met this very famous Kriya yogi who has a lot of following. And he loved Ma. He said, we had this great meeting, we just sat and talked about Ma. So all the saints are very accepting of Ma, love Ma very much now. It's beautiful to see. Well, thank you for sharing that. The way you would call it. So many people first heard of Ma through that book. That was one reason the head of our ashram, Swami Kedarnath, asked me to write that small book I wrote about Ma, A Goddess Among Us, because he said people are knowing of Ma but not about her life. So I wrote just a small introductory book, which has this life sketch and some of them, her teachings, some of my memories of being with her. But it was for the very reason, because people knew, oh yeah, I know Ma through Yogananda's book, but I don't really know about her life and her teachings and things. Yeah. Anybody else? Everybody out there, everybody's been touched by Ma in some way. Please share with us. We're all family here. We love to hear.
I'll share.
Please, Jennifer.
So Ma kind of I snuck into my life. I was on Instagram and there was a picture of her and a quote under it, and I decided to follow this Instagram and continue to, whenever it came up, continue to read what she had said. They would take a question that someone had asked and how she had responded to it, or a quote from her. And then somehow I knew that she came in knowing. So I've been studying with Shivananda, her contemporary. So I've been studying with Shivananda and I've been taking classes, and one of my teachers, Rukmini, we were talking about saints and avatars, like the difference between saints and avatars. And I asked her, I said, well, was Anandamayi Ma a saint or an avatar? And I said, because she came in knowing. And I really do not know how I learned that she came in knowing. I don't know if I read it on Instagram or if I just knew. And she said, well, Acharya Mangalananda is going to be here when you come to the Bahamas ashram. And in fact, one of the reasons why I signed up to go to the ashram at that time was because you were coming. And something told me that that's when I needed to be there. And you started telling stories about her, and my mind said, well, of course she did. And I had an intellectual knowing that I was a bhakti yogi, but during your kirtan, I knew, and you had her photograph up, and I just felt she was looking right at me. And often when I meditate on her, I don't want to come back. I just have it's without words. I have this love for her that feels like it goes beyond time and matter.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. That's wonderful. And see,
Beautiful.
I remember when you and I sat on that little bench outside the Satsang hall in the Bahamas, and you were talking, and I just thought, okay, Ma's got her through and through. And I love seeing that. In my travels, I love seeing how Ma has grabbed people. It's so beautiful. And it is true. She really reaches, and we, like I say, we can't think of her unless she thinks of us. So she has called us. She will continue to call us and lead us. If we just, now our part now, okay, what's our part? Ma's touched us the grace. We have her grace that we're here. We have our grace that we know her. Our part now is to more and more learn more and more, try to follow her teachings more and more, try to concentrate our mind on the name of God like she tells us to do, and to surrender to her more and more, and realize really and truly everything that comes to us now is her grace. And she started leading us, and she will not stop. She will keep leading us. And sometimes she leads us in very thorny places. Sometimes it's not easy. But if we really surrender more and more, everything that's coming to me now is from Ma herself. We will learn more of her and go further into her. And it is true, Ma these days manifests through her photos. That's why I usually like to have a photo of Ma while we're doing the kirtan, but I couldn't get the app to work. But Ma manifests through her photos. I've mentioned one time how Swami Gurushodan and I were on tour in England and UK. And we were in one of these small little seaside villages on the east coast of England, which is, they're so beautiful and charming. And our host there, we were staying with some Ma devotees in, I can't remember the name of the town now, but they arranged for us to do a kirtan in this little village theater, which was very nice downtown in the village. And we had brought from their meditation room, which is obviously too big for us to travel with, but from their meditation room, we brought this big picture of Ma, about this size, just of Ma's face. And it was behind us on the stage as we were singing. And after we came out of the concert, people, come and talk to us afterwards. And this lady came to us just in tears, and she said, "Who is this lady? I just have to know that." We said, "Tell us about this." And she said, I live here in this village, and I just happened to be walking down the street at this time, and I saw a sign, Indian music this afternoon, blah, blah, blah. That sounds nice. So I came in, and the minute I sat down and saw that picture, she came alive. She started speaking in my heart. Her eyes lit up. I felt this total drawing to her, So we told her about Ma, and for me, the authenticity of this experience was that she followed up. She kept in touch with the people who were doing Matri Satsang there, became a part of that group, and about a year later, she went to India and took Diksha from our Swami Bhaskarananda, who is Ma's main Swami, who has now left this world, unfortunately. And so she, as far as I know, she's still, practicing with Ma. So yeah, Ma reaches out and touches me. And Jennifer, definitely Ma has reached out and touched you. So the thing is, okay, everything starts through grace. What is our response? Our response is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the response to the grace of God, the call of God. God calls us, empowers us, and inspires us, but there's a part we have to play, and that's super important. We have a part that it will not go without our part. And our part is to have a practice. I'm not talking to you specifically, Jennifer, I know you do, but for all of us, we have to remember this. Our part is to have a concrete spiritual practice that we do daily with real devotion, day in and day out, year in and year out, with sustained enthusiasm. Ma frequently used the term sustained effort. She said, with sustained effort, this happens, this unfolds. So our part is to respond to this grace by having a practice and by surrendering more and more to Ma. When people write me or talk to me or call me and say, all these really difficult things are happening, blah, 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 this and that, my response is always, let everything that happens, no matter how beautiful or how difficult, let it strengthen our surrender to Ma. If we lose everything, if everything looks like it's black, then no, Ma is doing this. So I surrender. My response is I surrender more and more to Ma. Yes, you're doing this. If it's something I can change, I try. But if it's not, you're doing this, just lead me further. So the next step is total surrender to Ma, which is an ongoing, lifelong, I can tell you from my own experience, a lifelong work that takes lifelong effort. You never can slack from it. that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. This is piddly compared to what you just said. But when Jennifer spoke, I was thinking that thing you read in the very beginning. Remember, Ma is with you. And sometimes I actually remember, like when when else? When things are really rough, like, wow, Ma is with me. I can handle this. We're gonna do this.
Yeah. And Ma said several times, she says, say to yourself, Ma's with me, why should I worry? You know? And also she said, again, to emphasize what I was just saying, she said, when you've done everything you can with full effort, and that's a big win right there, she says, then anything that's left I will take care of. So we can have full faith that Ma will take care of us, but we have a part to play, an important part to play. Anybody else? Please, all of you are there. Anybody else? I'd love to know how people came to Ma, how people please share how Ma is affecting your life. That's why we're having satsang, to just share stories and to encourage each other and to inspire each other. Surely somebody else.
Yeah, sure. I'll share.
Please.
So, I first encountered Ma with her documentary. Is it the documentary of Sri Anandamayi Ma? And I felt her bliss, and it sent my psyche haywire. And within a few months, I knew I wanted to have my life surrounded with spiritual things. And yeah, Ma's been with me ever since. It's been about 6 years now. I've collected many photos and like meditation.
Very good. Wonderful.
Wow, that
wonderful.
sounds dramatic and perfect.
Yeah. But I love hearing each individual story, because they're all different. Ma reaches out in different ways and touches people. Beautiful. Anybody else? Or anybody, keeping on the subject of Ma, her teachings, her practice, our spiritual life, if anybody has anything they would like to share, or any comments or anything, this is why we're here. We're talking together. I'm not just going blah, blah, blah.
I will say this about your book, Acharya-ji, that I've read it all, but the chapter of words of wisdom from Ma, I have to be very centered. And it's like taking a bite at a time. I haven't made it through it. Because sometimes I have to go back.
I tried to take, from all the books we have for teachers, I tried to take just something that would illustrate the different points she mentions a lot. The first thing is she talks about everything is God. That's one of if you study her, over the years we've taken her. I live with Swami Kedarnath, who was a great scholar as well as a very saintly yogi. And he
to me, it's like an issue of how we consider what God is doing with us.
Explain that more, please. Hello? Okay. But anyway, in selecting the ones I put in the book, Swami Kedarnath collected all of my sayings and put them in a 6-volume book called Vachanamrita. It's in Hindi, unfortunately. And we've done some translating of it. But he talks, when we study it, Ma's sayings, basically overall, you see she emphasized several things. First thing is, there's nothing but God in the whole universe. So anything comes to us is coming to us from God. And she would say, people came to her with loss. She would say, God has come to you in the form of loss. People come here with victory and gain. God has come to you in this form. So I tried to put some of her words to emphasize that. And then her main practice is she would emphasize repetition of mantra, or the divine names of God. And that was, although she gave everyone personal instruction according to their temperament. So she didn't get to say the same thing to 2 different people. She would personally manage each person's spiritual life in their own unique way. But generally speaking, her main thing she talked about was the name of God and repetition of mantra. So I tried to put some of her talk about that in there. So, I try to just make it kind of representative of what she's saying. But it is true, Jennifer, as you say, it's very dense, has a lot of content. So you just, read it slowly and Again, digest it slowly. That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Frank has his hand up.
Frank, did you?
Hi,
Please. Hi, Frank. We didn't see you earlier.
I know.
Yeah, unmute. Left side.
Here.
There you are. Hi.
Jai Ma.
Ma.
Hi, Jema.
So I have a quick question for you. Has Ma ever encountered people? I mean, she's encountered millions of people, I'm sure, but has she encountered people that have a monkey mind when it comes to meditation?
Oh, you mean a normal human being?
Well, maybe a person with 24/7 monkey mind like myself.
Of course. I mean that is the human condition, to have a monkey mind. I mean, look at the Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken literally thousands of years ago, and Arjuna is in the place of the human being talking to Krishna, who's in the place of the God. And remember, at one point he says, you're talking about controlling the mind. He says the mind is like wind. It's impossible to control. How do you? This is Arjuna speaking thousands of years ago. He was also a very concentrated warrior, archer. He had a concentrated mind. But he said, how do we control the mind? It's impossible. It's like the wind. And remember what Krishna said. Krishna agreed. He said, yep, it's hard. It's not easy, kiddo. But he said two things. He said, through abhyas and vairagya, you conquer the mind. Abhyas means practice. And vairagya means detachment from external things, in the sense of not having all your mind and prana just immersed in worldly desires and things. So, Ma, if you read Pragya's book, you know she's answering questions, and frequently people will say, "Oh, I can't meditate; my mind's a mess," because it's that's the state of the mind. It really is. So don't feel like you're the only one with this problem. Everybody's got a monkey mind. In India, they say man chanchalahe. That means the mind is uncontrollable. And chanchala also is mixed in with monkeys. They say banda, chanchala bandar. So the term monkey mind is very common. But no, that's why Ma said, first of all, practice regularly, surrender to God. But then she said, use the mantra with the breath. She would say that to people. She would say, try to sit very still and watch the movement of the breath. And let the mind just run. Just don't pay attention to it. Watch the movement of the breath and then put the mantra in time with that breath. She said this will help still the mind. And it does. It really does.
And that's where the vairagya comes in. When the mind's chattering on, don't give it the attention. Be detached from that. Stay with the breath.
Exactly.
Or the mantra. Yeah.
Yeah, very good point. That's what it is. The vairagya means. You're not just, the first thought comes by, you just immediately go, boo, 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 boo. You have to have detachment. You let yourself step back. Okay, the mind's running. It doesn't matter. That's the nature of the mind. See, it's like we're sitting on a cliff watching just a river go by. We don't try to stop it. Because see, the mind's job is to make thoughts. That's what it does. And it does it very well. So we don't try to stop making thoughts. We don't try to force them down. That's like taking a sponge and just squeezing it. The water would go whoosh. It makes it much worse. But it's like you hold the sponge very gently. Then it doesn't, the water stays in it. Excuse me. So the way we deal with it is we just sit back quietly and just kind of rest in the moment and watch the thoughts go by. Don't touch them. Just feel yourself as separate, as the consciousness observing the thoughts. Watch the breath. The breath becomes slower. The mind will calm. And see, this is in Patanjali. Patanjali wrote the Yoga Sutras. Again, I don't know a date, maybe 2,000 years ago. And everybody's commented on them. They're hands down the manual for real yoga. And he talks about the different aspects of the mind. He says, first you have yama and niyama, where you regulate the external life to make sure there's not chaos in your external life. And then you have asana. You learn to sit still and quietly. It could be in a chair, it could be anywhere, but you learn to sit up and quiet and still and relaxed. Then he has pranayama. You watch the breath. And then he has pratyahara, which is you slowly close your eyes, bring the senses inward by just concentrating inwardly. And then you have what we practice. None of us can practice dhyana, which means meditation. The next step is dharana. Dharana is taking the mind and gently and patiently fixing it on the object of meditation. In this case, we have the breath and the mantra. And you fix it there, and guess what? It runs off. Guaranteed. 100%. Every time. That's dharana. This Patanjali talked about this, like I say, 1,000 years ago. You put the mind on it, and it runs off. And you like, as a patient parent, as a patient person who maybe trains a dog, you just very patiently bring it back again, and it runs off, and you bring it back again. And this is dharana, and this is what we practice. We sit quietly and with infinite patience, bring it back again and again and again. And the more we do it, like Krishna said, it's through abhyas, practice. The more we do it, the more we'll learn how to do it. We learn it's on the job training. We learn to do it by doing it. And the more we bring it back, the longer it will stay in that place. It will. We know it'll stay longer and longer. And eventually you make a little home for the mind where the mind is comfortable. Because the mind runs off because it's looking for, it's like a spoiled child. It just wants to have a good time. It's just looking for, so it attaches to some thought of the past, that brought it pleasure, or some rejection of the future which brings it pleasure. And when we keep it in the present moment, and we teach it to love the mantra and the breath, it will find pleasure in that, and it'll stay longer and longer. It'll be more and more concentrated.
And you will get better. You start off, it's appalling, where we all start off. But don't worry, just hang in there and just keep showing up.
Yeah, very nicely put. Does that help any? Does that help? Did you go to sleep or leave the room? You got to unmute, Frank. Bottom left.
Yes, that helped. Thank you.
Good. And don't despair. Like I say, that's the human condition of the mind. Ma said, how does she put it? She said the nature of the mind is restlessness, but the dharma of the mind is stability. That means its nature is to run here and there and there, but its dharma, its path, which it will fulfill, is to become stable and to become clear and calm and quiet. So it's even though its nature is restlessness, in its future is to be under control. So we have to just make that happen by the grace of God.
Thank you.
Sure. Nice to see you both.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma. Any other questions? Not just questions. Anybody share anything on subject
Yes,
with Noel?
Greg has his hand up also.
Greg, please.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, fine, good.
Okay. I'm having a bit of a tough day. It's a tough, good day. But before I go on, I just want to remind you, sir, that I sent you a message in the chat.
I don't think we
Okay.
can.
Oh, we can't see because we're on this.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to tell you that because I thought you probably couldn't see it. I get up every morning at 3 o'clock to do sadhana, and I do it for about 3 hours. And this morning, I had some really intense experiences with Anandamayi Ma, just realizations about my life and my path, and I wrote it all down. I keep a spiritual journal. I wrote it all down, but I'm not going to read it. All I can say, because I'm way too labile today. The psychological term. I'm very emotionally on the edge. With Ma this morning, I cried for 3 hours. It was very intense. And during darshan, I have these. The only way I can say it is they're otherworldly experiences. They're not part of consensus reality at all. Her face has become a portal, and I've seen other beings coming through, and I would like to share that. But anyway, this experience that I had this morning was quite something. It's left me pretty shaken, but in a good way.
Wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. And it is true. I agree that Ma is totally a portal. That's one of the things I should have said at the beginning. Is Ma is like I say, she was an historical character, but she is an eternal portal into higher worlds, and there's no question of that. Well, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad. I'll look at the note before we close the program.
Could I say one more thing? What should I call you? I'm sorry.
What should you call what?
You.
Hey, you. Some people
Hey,
say
you.
Maharaji, some people say Mangalananda. Most people, a lot of people say M, which is quicker than Mangalananda.
Okay. Well, I don't want to insult you by saying hey you or Mr. or whatever. So I just wanted to say I have a slightly different perspective than probably a lot of people that have come to this, although what I'm realizing more of these I go to is that there really isn't a cookie cutter way that people have come to Ma. People have come from all over, from a lot of different disciplines. I I had a spiritual teacher. I still have him. I've been a student of Rudolf Steiner for 50 years. He's a very intense teacher. And when I've been very disappointed. I mean, it's kind of broken my heart because I've shared my experiences with Ma and I've been totally rejected, rebuked that wasn't okay, that the Divine Mother should only come in a Judeo-Christian form. And so I'm still going to study groups, but I'm really only using it for jnana. And I have really become a devotee of Ma. And it's been very intense for me. I'm still going through this because I have friends who I've been friends with for like the guy I was in a study group with this morning. I've been a friend with him for 36 years. And I was rejected by him. And it's just very painful to experience that. So when you guys were talking about, the exclusivity of thought and philosophies and religions, it's really very unfortunate because that's not what anthroposophy is about. And I disagree with them very much. And I've told them the most unfortunate word that Steiner has ever used or his devotees have ever used is only. And I told them, don't use only with me.
Interesting. See, we always try to feel inspired by what we read. I think that was very relevant for you. See, I also grew up with Rudolf Steiner. My parents were adamant Rudolf Steiner devotees for decades and decades. They always think Steiner says, Steiner says. My sister, when
Steiner
she
says.
still says Steiner says, she's also
You
still.
know what I say? Simple Steiner says.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
And I have great respect for him. He was an amazing mind, an amazing mystic. He had his thumb into everything from gardening to science to architecture to philosophy. He has. I also have some trouble with some of his revelations. I think some of them are maybe misinterpreted. But anyway, we're not here to judge any teacher. But my point is, it is true. Many groups can become very very close-minded, and absolutely is true. Ma has that universality which is so needed in the world today. But also she doesn't really conflict with anything. Like people came to her from so many different religions and backgrounds, and everything. If you look at her teachings, there isn't a real, unless you're saying mine is the only way, yours is wrong. She will conflict with that. But if you look at the teachings of anthroposophy, Ma very much can fit into that. Now they might think so. Like I personally am very involved in a Christian sect also, an Orthodox Christian sect, Russian Orthodox sect, and I find great benefit in it, great benefit from it, and I can see totally how it's just no different. Like I get up in the morning, I do my Shiva Puja, Gayatri Mantra, I go to stand in the liturgy and pray to Jesus. I see no difference. But if they knew, well, from their side, I'd be in a lot of trouble. They'd probably burn me at the stake or something because they can't see that unity. So we should just thank God that God has given us this knowledge and this vision that we see the unity, and pray for them when they. As you say, it's hard when friends reject you. It's terrible. It's really difficult. But maybe not by preaching, but maybe by your example and maybe by a kind word here and there, you can give them some little more breadth of vision also, just by your thoughts and your actions. So maybe you can help them. It's not easy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's very nice. Well, I think our time, we got a couple minutes. Our time is almost up. If anybody else have anything they want to share, we're always happy to hear from everybody. Everybody's perfectly content. Not a word to say. Frank, are you trying to unmute?
I forgot to say today is Frank's 51st birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
I was never born.
Well, happy birthday, Frank. Yeah, one time I was with our Swami Kedarnath, who runs the Om Kareshwar ashram in India. I lived in his ashram for many years. He's a wonderful saintly yogi, and we call him Baba. And it was his birthday, so I came up to him. I said, he was walking back and forth after the meal, and I came up to him. I said, Baba, happy birthday. And he stopped. He looked at me. He said, no birth, no death. And he went back to walking back and forth. I got, I thought that was a good lesson.
We could sing our birthday song.
Okay, here we go, Frank. On this day the Lord gave you life. May you use it to serve her. Our loving prayers will be with you. May you never forget her. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you.
And the pure light within you.
Guide your way on. Guide your way on. Guide your way on. Jai Ma. Happy birthday, friend. Okay, and so we're here every third Sunday of the month. Thank you all for joining us and for participating and sharing. For those who are local, we'll be sharing kirtan at the
Fairfax, Padma Studio.
Padma Studio in Fairfax on February 22nd. And I will be in Florida on February 14th. We're having a Mati Satsang. There's some wonderful Indian devotees of Ma there, and hopefully Robert and Arpita will be there, and Janet and David. So we'll have a nice Satsang. And looking forward to that. And we're here every time. And remember Ma, remember your practice. And let's all get closer to Ma, because that's where true bliss lies. She is Anandamayi, full of bliss. And the more we can remember her, the happier we'll be. Really true. If you want to unmute and say goodbye, we'll see you.
Can I ask a question before you go, Acharya?
Yeah.
I had a discussion recently with someone, and the Hindu tradition tends to speak in terms of Atman and Brahman, and the Buddha, he was a sort of, what do you call it, via negativa. He would talk about the unborn, the uncreated, the uncreated, the unborn, and I don't know whether you've ever discussed that division, or whether like Ma would ever agree to that way of. I mean, I assume she would be quite capable of changing her language. It's just that I talked to a Hindu scholar today, and it seemed quite almost like a stubbornness that, you have to talk in terms of Atman and Brahman, where the Buddha, obviously, which are like positive terms, but I don't know if you've ever thought or contemplated that, or considered that the Buddha's way of speaking in terms of negative, it's slightly less problems that way. I don't know if you have anything to.
I know one time Ma was giving a satsang, and people who were there regularly started looking at her like she's saying the same things, but she's saying it in such a different language. She's saying it she's expressing in the way we've never heard her express it before. At the end, it turned out there was a group, an entourage of maybe 6 or 8 Buddhist monks who were there. And they came to her and says, "Oh Ma, you express things exactly as in our scriptures." It was so wonderful, And actually, Arpita, as a practicing Buddhist, she would be able to answer this more, but just real briefly, I think it's just a matter of terminology. Like the Buddha talked about Atman, the no self.
Yeah.
And in Hinduism, we talk about Atman as the real self. I think it's just the same thing. The Buddha was saying there's no small self individual that we've made. We've made this strange little ego that I'm separate from everything and everyone. I'm just all up here. The Buddha was saying that Atman does not exist. That it was only the higher nirvana. I think it's just a matter of terminology.
I agree.
Yeah, Arpita, please.
No, I just, because I know that Will has talked about this several times and brought this up. It is a matter of phrasing, but it's also a matter of how you see things. But ultimately, we're talking about the same thing. It's just sort of like, are you looking from the left, or are you looking from the right, or are you looking from up, or are you looking from down? Everyone has a different perspective on how to interpret the same reality.
Yes.
And
yes.
as Ma gave me initiation and instructions, she knew what path I was going to take, and I was instructed accordingly. So just briefly, I'm reiterating what you're saying, Mangalananda, is that it's a perspective and how your personality is and what your samskaras are, but ultimately it's just different language leading to the same place or leading to the same reality.
Yes, thank you, Arpita. Very
Yeah.
well put. And again, Ma said each of these sampradayas, the world religions, the different paths, he said God himself, herself, founded all of them. And they're all just for different temperaments, like it's a big buffet. And we don't have the same digestive system, we don't have the same tastes. So we have different approaches to the divine. And that's very nice to put it, how you're looking at it, from left to right or up or down. So that's why we have to be so tolerant. Like the Amada saying in the reading, that it's a different perspective. In the Buddhist perspective, I've studied it. I haven't practiced it, but I've studied it some also. I used to go very regularly to Tanisara Bhikku's Wat Metta outside of San Diego. Great admiration for him. Great Buddhist teacher. And I found the Buddhist teaching so clear, so precise, so functional. I mean, really very practical and very clear. But for me, I have a devotional temperament, and so it was a little bit too dry. I have to have that sweetness of a personal God who I'm longing for and relating to and dedicating myself to. So it wasn't really my particular path, but I benefited from it and I have a profound respect for the different schools of Buddhism, and Ma did too. Okay, so our time's up, and thank you all for coming. And if you want to say goodbye, we'd love to hear your voices, and we will see you next month, God willing. We're all alive, and the creek don't rise, as the saying goes.
Everybody.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Thank you.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Thank you, Kanye.
Jai Ma, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rate Ma, Rate Ma, Rate Ma.
Namaste.
Namaste. Oh, Vivian, we didn't see you earlier. Hello.
Hi.
Hiya. Wow.
Always good to see you, Shama. Always good to see you. Oh, Janet, can you hear me, Janet and David?
Yes. We're here with the Pataks. Yeah, we're here with the Pataks.
Oh, Jema. Jema.
A little dark. It's hard.
हम जल्दी
Yeah.
मिलेंगे 1 महीना के बाद.
Yeah.
Janet, can we get hold of a harmonium so we can have harmonium in our satsang? You know, we can do mass hymn and things. We don't need to get just harmonium.
Yeah.
I have one. It's not tuned though.
We'll manage.
I'll bring it.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Okay.
Looking forward to seeing everyone again. It's been a long time.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, can't wait.
Oh.
Wish Gloria we're coming next time.
Yeah, next time.
Next time.
She's going a different direction at that point.
All right. Okay.
Okay. See everyone later. Take care. Jai Ma.
All right. Jai Ma.